Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Book to Block, the series where I bring my fantasy novel to life in Minecraft one block at a time. Today's episode, we're starting here on top of the volcano, because we're going to be building right down here. Let's see if I can do this backwards, in this location. And if my sign is to be accurate, we're going to be building the temple today. So in the lore of the placement for everything, I kind of mentioned it I think in the last episode when I talked about my grand hall, the feasting hall. Like the higher you get up in the city or on the volcano, the more like holy or important that building is. And the religion of this area, where they worship the light, which can be many different things. It could be like the lava that comes from the volcano, could be the sun from the sky, could be a light dragon or something like that. I don't have any specifics quite yet, but this is kind of a little bit higher than the Great Feasting Hall, so obviously the religion means a lot to these people of dwarves. So kind of here, I have this weird bridge that I kind of planned out very early on. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to change it from kind of floating midair. It's going to hop from here and maybe just hit here first and then go up, just so we can have a nice little kind of entrance to the temple here. It'll kind of wrap around, maybe a little bit inside, and then I've just got to make sure that it doesn't go too far in, otherwise I'll have to push back the mountain a little bit, which isn't too much of an issue. I just kind of like this protruding a little bit here. So I'm going to fix up the bridge, get all the terrain ready, so then I can build the temple on this plot of land. Alright, and we're finishing up the path a little bit here. So it's just a very basic path. I wanted to just bounce across. I kind of have it like a little bit indented into here, like they kind of maybe put like a pillar all the way through. I might do some more supports. I think a good one might be here, or maybe I'll do some like curved, kind of like what I have. Let's see if we can get there in time. It's way over here in the mountains. One of the first things I built, one of the first bridges actually, over here. Kind of like this, how I've got this working with like the curvature of the arch bridge. You might notice everything's a little bit colder over here. I've been playing around with the biome painter because I want the mountains to be a little bit icy and cold. So I've been painting them with like the frozen peaks. And then for these areas, I just paint them back to plains just so that I can have like see the platform or the path that it is, and just so it doesn't get covered with the snow and you can't see. I still got to do over here. I've slowly worked over here. You can also see I've done like the edges of the lake up here, so it's not all frozen. And we've got the motion that's keeping this from freezing. But like over here, I've slowly gotten rid of the snow a little bit, just so if I turn the like weather back on, it's not going to cover back up. It also creates a cool visual, I guess, when using distant horizons because it makes it all look a lot more snowy. But that's just to add a little bit more kind of detail to the whole region. But getting back to my bridge and the temple. So I'm going in with the cobbled deep slate slabs like I do for basically all the paths. You can probably see it from anywhere. I use it just so you don't have to jump anywhere. I still got to do these ones, but the path isn't finished yet, so I don't need to focus on those. So you can see up here, I never want like, because it always feels really unnatural when you have to jump up a block. I want it to be able to, you can run through this entire city and basically everywhere else. For some places down here, I use things like the granite because it kind of meshes well with all the dirt colors. But let's get back. I'll probably do a lot more detailing on the bridge later, but I want to get into the temple. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a little path here that's going to come out around. So I'm going to use the sloping tool. I want it to be blackstone, but I want it to be very small so I can fix any mistakes I make. We're just going to bring it up a little bit. It's kind of hard with the big gap, so maybe we'll do the path tool instead. Just to connect these up, we can make it a little bit wider. Oh, that didn't work. We'll have to paste that in. There we go. And then we can fill these bits in by hand, just for the detailing. I'll go around with the slabs as I get them. This kind of messed it up when I was using the sloping tool. But I can go in with the slabs, or maybe just continue on with the basalt for a path. up to the front here. Don't want it to be on its side, so might have to do this manually. Ooh, that's probably why, because it doesn't have much. So I'll kind of curve this over just so it doesn't feel too structurally unsound. So use a lot of curves and that kind of stuff just to naturally, I kind of did that already with this. And over here, I just got to make it a little bit more curved. And then here as well, that'll make it feel a lot safer. But let's get to the front of the temple now. Alright, so I've done a little bit of palette picking. So I want to go with the polished deep slate for like the main build, like the body of the build. And then obviously the accents in copper as keeping in theme. So I just grabbed everything, so all the stair variants, maybe throw some bars, the doors, trap doors, change, lighting, and then maybe use some of these golem statues. Obviously everything will have to be waxed, don't want everything oxidizing. Have these guys kind of standing around doing the different like poses because we can get these and then maybe have them like this, just like praying and stuff or whatever. And then I think the roof will be in the tuff. I would like to use different types of like wood and stuff, but obviously lava right here. Don't want our holy place catching on fire. So we're gonna go for the lighter gray and then have these as like the detailing maybe on the inside or on like towers and stuff. I've got a kind of idea of the shape I want for the whole thing. I'm thinking of having like a little bit of entrance, the main body, having like maybe a courtyard that can kind of peek off this side, and then this side will be kind of peering off with like the big window, maybe do a bit of stained glass or something. This is going to be the best view that you can get from here. I mean, over here you can look into the lava lake, so that'll be kind of from the balcony, but not a balcony, just I'll have like a, maybe use the copper bars as a railing here. Can't see too much because of the cloud level, but that can always change. There's actually a nice little thing if you go into my shaders. If it's, I think, atmosphere, clouds, I can change the altitude. So maybe I want it like way above me. So if we apply that, wait for it to load, it'll take a minute. Now we have clouds way, way up in the sky. So maybe I want them just peaking at the top. So this is at, what are we at? 270. So let's try that maybe. Atmosphere, clouds, maybe around there. Let's see, there we go. And then if we pop down here, now we can actually see everything from up here, but we still have clouds way up in the sky. So I mean, if you go to like the tallest mountains in the world, obviously you're going to be slightly above, but I mean, I don't even know, because we're at 3, so I think world heights, how tall is it? Let's actually check. So if we stack, and then I'm just going to drag a bunch, and then paste. Is that it? Yeah, it looks like we can't pass any higher than this. Is it going to say? It's not saying it in chat, but that's the highest point. So it's pretty much the highest point in the world. I can obviously make things a lot taller if I dig deep into the ground because I do have a decent chunk. If I no clip all the way down here, you can see I got a decent chunk of underground that I can still work with if I want to do like a really tall mountain somewhere. But this is going to be pretty much the tallest mountain in the world unless I do some big ones maybe out in the outskirts out there in the kind of north. Speaking of the north, I did spend a little bit of time on a live stream kind of playing around. Couldn't really get much done because I didn't have any inspiration, but I kind of played around, talked about the lore and everything, and I kind of thought of how everything's going to go further out, and then I started doing some labeling. So as we exit here, just a little bit of spoilers for future episodes once all this region is done. We're going to have an enchanted forest here, plains here, and then way over here is going to be the gnomish land. So a little bit of spoiler of another race in this world. We have a gnomish lands, which is going to be a kind of steampunky area, like all that kind of stuff for that city and the lands, because that's their kind of technology level. But that's just a little bit of spoiler. We can kind of see a lot better with the world map. I was kind of trying to explain how everything's going to be in the world, the path of the main character and stuff like that. You can kind of see all the snow I've done, leaving out some bits on the outskirts here. And then this is going to be much further north. So it'll probably go up to around here, and then this will be kind of like the cutoff of the world. Obviously, world's going to keep going, but it's going to be like that's like the North Pole of my world is going to cut off around here, and then we can have a lot of like wastelands up here that we can add a little bit of scenery and like special lore that I haven't come up with yet, but I can in due time. But now let's get back to what we're doing in this episode, not flying through the ground. We're getting to the temple. So let's get to a little bit of the building. All right, so we're getting the shape down a little bit. So my thoughts were we have a little bit of an entrance here, but this is kind of like open air, so it's not going to have a roof on here, but it's a little bit of a enclosed space. Maybe have this up one further, and maybe I have just like a large window here or something just to show off to kind of like a seating area, an entrance area. Then it kind of cuts off into two bits. We got the outside area. I should have used the oxidized versions. They were already into the exposed phase just because I have a high tick rate on in this world. And this is kind of just like a courtyard. Maybe I put like a fountain here, have, well, not greenery, but a nice seating area to kind of hang out and chill around, for lack of a better word. And then this is going to be the main door, so probably a little bit bigger. And then we head into the main area. I don't have super plans for it yet, but it's going to also connect into this area over here. So I had two kind of squares or rectangles, and then they're connected by this little bit. And then each one, maybe I have this one be a tower, and then this one just be a room that kind of extends off the tower a little bit. Because I want this one to reach a decent height, probably to around here total for like the highest point of the roof. So maybe I'll have like only part of this be a tower. Like maybe if I want to cut off to like here and then raise this up and have probably a little bit bigger than that, but a tower here and then have like kind of sloped roofs, kind of like if I go over to my church thing here, kind of like how I've got it here. How I've got the big tower in one area and then just like building that kind of slopes off near it just to fill in the area a little bit better. So I'm going to do a little bit more planning, maybe a little bit more practicing of different shapes, get like the plow it down. I still don't know what I'm going to do for the floor because I'm using the tuff now for the roof instead of what I usually do. So maybe I'll switch it out for maybe using mud, but this kind of seems a little low class for a holy building. So maybe I'll go around, check out my other block palettes, see what else I can kind of sneak in here for the roof, and then maybe tuff can go back to the floor because I've been using tuff quite often as the kind of smooth floor, especially with the, the polished tuff. It always looks pretty good when you have it as your flooring. It just kind of fits quite nicely. So maybe I'll either switch off of the tuff for the roof, or maybe I'll use like the, we go to tuff. Maybe I'll use the bricks, and then the chiseled tuff can be used kind of for like the tower, just accenting on top of the polished deep slate, and maybe use some of the other deep slates as well. Alright, so we switched up the sizing a little bit. I shrunk this main kind of square here a little bit, and I've started going with a bit of detail, as you can see. So I've originally just built it straight out of just the polished deep slate. Then I went in with the deep slate tiles just to give a little bit of color difference. It's slightly darker. And then as I was going through, I wanted a little bit more detail. So I started using the pale oak shelves. Now I know I said I don't want to use any wood in these types of builds because, I mean, lava right there. But I'm thinking these are special type of wood because I remember talking in some live stream with one of my viewers. They mentioned that it would be cool if like this wood was special because it's been like heat treated essentially because it's all been burnt down. And I actually used the pale oak is the kind of burnt wood. So maybe the process of having this forest that caught fire from the lava lake and it's been on fire for hundreds of years, it's cured these trees so that they're essentially fireproof basically now. They're still standing, it's not dust. It was just it burnt away all the leaves and branches and weaker stuff, and these left the very hard, strengthened trunks of the trees, and then that can be used in special builds. So I'm thinking using it for the temple of all the worship. I think that's a pretty good use for it, and the white really gives a nice accent pop to the whole thing. Now this kind of build is essentially done now. There's a couple things. I don't really like the bell, honestly. I wish we had some sort of like stair slab. I could probably make it out of bamboo for now, but we're just gonna leave that for now, and that'll be a later detail maybe I do with like display entities. Actually, what I could do, now that I mentioned that, that gives me a good idea. If we remove this whole thing, let's try something, because I've got some bells in here already. But I think what would be even better, destroy all this, bell. So I don't know if this is going to work. Yeah, no, it's going to create this. So let me do a little like testing, see if I can create this as like a block instead. All right, so what we got here is a display entity, but it is a player head. So I grabbed it from a website called, let me check, minecraftheads.com, and you can get custom heads of basically anything. So I just typed in Bell. So this is just a head, like a model from like a player head, but using the two layers to create a little bit of depth. And then I just scaled it up, put a little bit of a top bit here, and it's already got the bottom like ringing bit here. So, and then the problem with having it as a even number, I can't have something coming down the center unless, I guess, if we were to wall, we want to use probably the black stone. It's kind of a problem, but if we go like this, stretch it out, maybe make it a little more even, and a little up there. Now we have the little thing you grab to shake, and then if I turn off my gizmos, no longer see it. So that's a slightly better bell. Actually, let's see, how far away can I go? Will it despawn at all because it is an entity? No, it looks like it's pretty good even at extreme distances. There we go. So it's not visible from here, but that is an insane distance away, so I think we'll be good for that. Looks a lot better than the chunky, I mean it's still just a square, but it has a bit of the texture with that. I can also go in and maybe widen this bottom bit by just adding another kind of square, but I think that's good for now for that bit of detail. So we kind of have the courtyard, I kind of broke up a little bit, just because I have the entrance over here now. So the courtyard is going to be a little bit smaller. I'm probably going to push this back so that it's around here probably. We can go up, remove this, have it kind of like that. Then we're going to bring this around, maybe curve it a little bit. And then we're going to put that there. Maybe have like a slight little kind of window here. We got this courtyard here and into this area. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this part yet. If I'm going to just do a nice basic roof and then texture the sides like this one. Let me put a little bit of thinking into that and I'll get right back to you. Alright, we're looking a little bit more complete now. I've gotten basically all the exterior I want to do for now. A couple points like this flat wall. I need to figure out how to give it a bit more detail, but without adding windows, because I don't need more windows on this side, because I want some sides to be blank, so you can have things on the walls without it being blocked by needing to have it open to the air. So I've kind of gone with these little arches on the front bit here, just to keep it a little bit more open, courtyard-esque, get a nice view of the plains and the lava river. Kind of messed around with the path a little bit, so we got the basalt, like the standing up on the center of it. That's the most walked area. Then as you go out, you go back into the black stone of the volcano, along with some of this cracked polish, because it kind of fits, because it's a little bit of a messier texture. And then out with a little bit of the black concrete. I'm not sure how I like that, but it does add a lot of detail and texture to the path itself. I also went in with a couple of these slabs, just to give a bit of depth, because it was feeling really, really flat, so it just adds a bit of depth to the whole thing. And then if we skip this and we go into this outside bit, so I mixed between the waxed exposed and waxed weather, just to give a little bit more, like, there's just a difference, texture, color, everything, just a little different for everything. A little bit of safety. And then we go on to the second building that I didn't show in the last clip, but it's here now. So this is just the, like, extension of the tower. So I just went around with a bunch of, like, bit of detail, going with the pale oak, and then depth using these walls and stairs and just making it just messy enough so it doesn't seem flat and boring. And then we have this huge window here. I'm not sure if I'm going to do any glass or if I'm going to leave it open just to the air. Now let's head back to the front. So we got a lot of detail. I added some of these copper golems here. It just adds a little bit more, just because when it's further away, you can't really tell they're the golems. It just looks like a little bit of detailing on top. And then a little bit more lighting just to make it all better at night. So if we head on inside, it's all blank right now. I've just added a small little staircase here that goes all the way up to this part. We can sneak our way in, and then up to this staircase, which takes you up to the kind of bell tower where you can ring the bell. So there's not too much interiors I want to do right now because I've done a lot of interiors lately. To the last two videos where I did the Great Hall and the library, the majority of it was done interior. So this one's fully interior, this one's like half and half, but more interior. So I want to focus on doing an exterior build this time. So I might do a little bit more detailing on this and then toss that in the end of the video. But this might just be it for today's episode, just because I'm feeling like this is good progress for this area. I can always come back in a later episode to do a lot of like extra detailing to different builds. Like I want to kind of fix up my warehouses because they all feel really flat, and just maybe just change up like the coloring of the roofs instead of just using the tiles. Maybe I do like a mixture of the tile, the polished, and then the bricks, just to give it a bit more texture so it doesn't look so flat. Because honestly, when I come out of my shader pack, everything looks so much more vibrant, but it's harder to hide my lack of building skill. It really helps when you have all the shadows and everything. It does make everything just look better no matter what you build. Even the simplest build can look a lot better if you have a little bit of this detail. Alright, we've made quite a few changes since the last clip there. The distant horizons isn't working, so we're not getting the full render distance. It's just the 32 chunks of vanilla. It's not working with Axiom right now, so maybe in the future they'll update a patch and it'll fix that. But for now, we're looking a little bit empty of a world. Getting back to our build, so I've done a lot of work here, a lot of texturing for the first part. So I went in and did a lot of replacements of different blocks for like the tiles, added in a bit of the black stone. Up close it looks a little weird, but the further you get away, and the main point is you'll be viewing it from down here, or maybe all the way up here. You're never going to be basically standing on the roof. So that kind of fixes that problem. Add in a bit of smooth basalt, some of the deep slate bricks, did the same for some of the walls and things. So that adds a lot more detail to it, making it look a lot less flat. Same with I added this window in here and brought the mountain a little bit forward to hide a bit of the like flatness, as well as adding a bit of depth here. I also went around and added in these banners that I created for my church in my village. Ooh, whoops, don't want to do that. And it's just kind of like the mountain volcano with the sun, so they're worshiping the light, which is can be multiple things, like I mentioned. So we kind of have those spread around, and then when you come inside, I added a bit of detailing. So we've got some forbidden books that are maybe locked away. Some of them are open, getting access to them currently. We've got our staircase that goes up to the bell tower. And I've got some of these. I was thinking, what can I kind of like decorate with? It's dwarves. They're all about gold. They're all about like the armor and stuff. So I thought putting these like maybe they're like holy sets of armor or something on display. And then if we come in here, I added a bit of a depth using the slabs, kind of adding a bit of edge with chiseled, and then change the floor, adding a bit of the bricks just so it's not so flat. And that kind of brings us into here, a couple more bookshelves. Not too much else in here. I'm not sure what would like kind of fit here. Maybe I could add some paintings, and then later on when I make a texture pack, those can be changed out for specific things. But this is really kind of fixed my problem of having it very kind of empty. I added a bit of lighting with these frog lights covered in the trapdoors. And one last thing before the end of today's episode. If we come down here, you might notice a little bit of texturing that I mentioned earlier that was bugging me. So I went and flipped around instead of just using, I think it was the tile originally, it's hard to tell now, but I added in a bit of cobbled, a bit of the tiled, and a bit of brick, and it really fixed that problem of it being like too clean, too like flat, I might go back in and add a bit more of the dark instead of having a bunch of the light, but it really fixes that kind of problem. I also did it over here, adding in a bit of the granite along with the mud, because that's one of the ones where I can add stairs, because if I go over to my library, you can notice I used a bit of the packed and then a bit of the mud bricks, but the packed doesn't have stairs or slabs, so you can't really get that. I also did it on the walls, doing a mix of the polished and the brick. As well, on the ground here, I kind of experimented adding in a bit of the cracked polished, and when you look at from up here, it looks so much better than like over here. If you like compare, that's kind of the line here. This looks a lot better. I added in a bit of moss on my guys here. I might eventually go around and do the same on these walls, because right now they're very flat and they could use a bit of texture. That's what I'm kind of noticing. The texture really makes everything look, changes it from the ideal of like this one where it's like perfectly smooth, like just built, to having a little bit of wear and tear. Last little detail before we end the episode. I know there is the option to create block entities of like a bell, but when you place it, watch what happens. The bell's gone, but it's just the bar. I don't know how to fix this. If there is a fix, I'll probably replace this bell with the proper one, but for now I just added in like a slab of gold, just kind of flattened out the gold just to add a little bit more detail to the shape of it. But I think that's where we're going to end off for today. I spent a lot more time on this build, kind of redesigning it multiple times just because I wasn't too happy with it. There was lots of problems, but I think the texturing really kind of fixed everything up. And I'm definitely going to be playing around with more of the texturing. You can kind of see behind me here. I've added in a bit of that cracked polished, and it's really kind of breaking up the flat texture of the black stone everywhere. But I think that's where we're going to leave it today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for more episodes coming soon. Until next time.